All right, what's up everybody? This is Fair Sleem with Trade with Tex. Today we're going to be switching things up a little bit. Instead of talking about stocks to watch moving forward, we're going to talk about a breakout strategy, okay? This applies to day traders and swing traders, and initially it was going to be our webinar in the Trade with Tex chat room today, right? We have 2 a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, for those of you that are signed up. If you're not, don't worry. I wanted to kind of make this shorter, put it on YouTube so you guys could apply it to your trading and nail the same strategy. Okay. Now, first things first, as I mentioned, it works for swing traders and day traders. Basically, you're capitalizing on a higher momentum mover on the first day of its move, right? So not only helping you find when it's going to move, but getting the meat of that move, and then a little bit of day two. Okay, that's the ideal holding period here. All right, to give you a better idea of your entry and exit point. Now, we're going to use Roku as an example, but it works for any stock. It works for a penny stock. It works for futures even. But we're going to use Roku and one other stock as an example here. Okay, Roku is from today. Basically, what we're looking for is just a simple breakout over a recent resistance level. That resistance level being the prior week's high. Okay. It works on the short side as well, where you have a basic rotation below the prior week's low. So really all you need to define in order to trade this strategy, right? And there's another part to it, but this is the main one. All you need to define is what is the big resistance, right? Now, here's the tricky part, and this is the point that I want to make. Normally on Roku, so this is the 1 year, 1 day chart. This is today's candle, okay? Move has already happened. Normally, people would just wait for the break of this high because that was the most recent highest point for Roku, right? That is actually incorrect. The way that you would prioritize this stock and the way that you would trade it is based off of whether or not it can clear the prior week's high, okay? So what you need to do is you have to have the weekly time frame up. In this case, Thinkorswim and TD already defaults it to the 3 year, 1 week on your list of time frames. So you just go up here, click 3 year, 1 week, each candle representing a week. All right. And as simple as that, you just draw the high and the low for that stock, right, on the previous candle. So in this case, let me just delete it so you can see what it looks like when I do it live. Let me remove it. Remove drawing. I just go to my drawing tools, key level, and then have it set there. Okay, I'm going to change it to yellow so it sticks out a little bit more, and it's also a few cents off. And I will label it as well. I'm going to put LWH, last week's high. It's always good to have some kind of go-to abbreviation for these different key levels. So you can see how it's 240.88. Simple as that, right? So I know for Roku, in order for me to play it for a breakout, okay, needs to break 240.88. Simple as that, right? Now, we've looked at the weekly time frame. That's the main one we want to use because, again, this is as simple as it gets. It's breaking through this candle's high. All right. Now let's roll it into the intraday time frame so I can show you guys. I'm just going to pull it up on the 5 minute to keep it nice and simple. So this is how it opened up, okay? And it opened up very strong, powered through, and immediately broke and closed a candle above that resistance. Now you might be asking, where the hell did this momentum come from, right? It's not because it broke last week's high. That's where this momentum came from, right? But not this momentum. That momentum came from the news, okay? So here's the other side of the strategy. If a ticker is on its first day of moving, right? And I get this question all the time. I don't really know why. To be honest, I'm kind of a little bit vexed as to why that is. But people always ask, how do I know if it's day one of the move? If it's the first day where it's showing relative strength and price is up and it has news, that's day one. It's as simple as that. So Roku opens up flying out of the gates, right? First day with news and first day of a breakout and first day with relative volume, right? So we can actually go through and check all the boxes. Right? News, check. Price breakout, check. Normally that's the last box that you're checking because that's what gets you in. Okay? And then volume, check. Right? So Roku breaks out right off the bat on day one, and we get this huge push afterwards. Ran up all the way up to the 257s. Okay. Now, the strategy again is to just nail this breakout. And normally the way you want to play it is on the break of that previous high, right? 240.88. Okay, that previous week's high. That's called a weekly rotation up. Fancier way of saying it. And immediately you jump in and you look for the next target. Now, normally you would measure risk to reward, but typically if it's breaking through a weekly high, there's enough reward, right? And it's the same thing as a stock breaking down below a weekly low. There's typically enough reward there because larger time frames equal larger moves. Let me actually wait a second because that's the most important takeaway from this webinar. Larger time frames equal larger moves. So if you're having trouble with overtrading and confirmation, those are two huge issues that technical traders run into right off the bat. Your time frames are too low. Like if I'm basing everything off the 5 minute or the 1 minute or the 3 minute, chances are I'm just going to keep getting stopped out. I'm going to overtrade because I'm not using the larger time frames to give me the trade ideas. Okay? So the weekly chart, again, massive range, larger move, and in general, larger volume, right? If we're focused on where volume and price are concentrated. So in this case, 240.88, if that breaks, it should just send it up to that resistance, right? It's as simple as that. It's the same thing if Roku had lost this low, right? Let's say that it was in a downtrend, for example, and Roku had lost that low, we would just be looking for a move down there. Okay, typically that's enough risk to reward to get in. It's a rare case scenario that it's not. You have to really be trying to find a scenario where it's not enough reward. Okay, now just to keep moving along here, because we're going to go over one more example. Roku breaking out over that resistance was the signal. And again, we already had this stock on watch because it was day one with news. Simple as that. So Roku, point A to point B, went from this yellow line up to those two red lines that we had as the target area, and that's where we took our profits. Okay. Now, you're not always going to be early to the move. You're not always going to get it the second it breaks out. But the bottom line is, if you see a stock that has news and it's sitting under last week's high still, and you're not sure what confirmation is, just play it safe and use the weekly rotation up strategy, because that is absolute confirmation. Okay, so all I got to do, let's say that I'm looking at Roku pre-market, right? I've seen that last week's high is right here. I'm not looking for a move above this high. I don't care about that level, right? I want last week's high. Okay, so I see it gapping up pre-market, and I see that resistance, and I say, you know what? I'm just going to set an alert above that. So I right-click the chart, create alert, okay, at or above, and then I just go 240.88. All right, 240.88 and create. All right, in this case, it set it below because we're above that, but normally I would set it to that and it would trigger if it broke out, okay? But again, I'm just using that as an example. So for Roku here, as you can see again, point A to point B, point A to point B, and it went exactly to our key levels. All right, some great follow through there. So I said earlier that you're looking for a 1 to 2 day move. Normally day one is going to be huge, right? And then day two, you'll get a little bit of carryover momentum afterwards. So let's look at another example here, because Roku is one of those stocks that is just really aggressive every time it moves. Let's look for kind of a quieter example, right? DraftKings, for all the degenerate sports gamblers out there like myself. DraftKings, right, had earnings recently and ran up to the 46s, dropped back down, started curling back up again this week, and had a positive headline on Tuesday. Okay, so Tuesday, DraftKings, if we zoom it in, gaps up on news, right? We were watching it in the Trade with Text chat. Again, for what it's worth, it's a $50 a month chat, but we do have a free week. So I'm talking about this chat room a ton. You don't need to be a millionaire to get in there. You can sign up for the free week on the website, okay? So in the chat, we were watching it pre-market, and we knew that DraftKings had resistance overhead after earnings, right? If you look at the weekly time frame, again, bigger time frames equal bigger moves. Basically, the stock had pulled back, ran up here, and that's last week's high. So It's day 1 with news. It's not day 2, not day 3, day 1, okay? All we do is we annotate last week's high and either watch it, or if you can't sit by your computer all day, right? It's not the end of the world, set the alert. Just right-click your chart and set the alert. So for DKNG here, as you guys can see, we annotated that high. It's in yellow again, right? I just did it in advance, save some time here. And as you can see, it had a strong morning, then extended that range. Normally, this is when everybody stops giving a crap. This is when all the washed up wannabe traders, you know, get off for lunch and they say, hey, you know what? I don't really feel too comfortable with this. I'm not going to trade it. This is opportunity, right? This is very clearly opportunity. There was a specific problem with this DKNG chart where it had resistance pretty close by, okay? But that right there is a weekly rotation up. And again, what this looks like on the weekly, if you want to just spot it flat out, right, is just a break of this high. Okay, so weekly rotation up, day 1 with news. That means that right here, you can enter it. Okay, you can enter it long. You can buy calls, you can buy common stock, you can do whatever the hell you want, but you can enter it on the long side. Okay, now DKNG, you can see that was at 45.50, and look at the run up since. Right, day 1 should be a bigger move, and again, it had already ran up a good bit. Right. So day 1 was all in all a big move, okay? And then day 2, we got a nice pop. We even got a day 3 for a little bit there before seeing a reversal off of this resistance. All right, so day 1, day 2, and then it ended up exhausting on day 3. But it's really as simple as that, right? If a stock closes above the prior week's high, and let's say it's not even, you know, that high of a momentum stock. Let's say it's Amazon, right? If Amazon gets that weekly rotation up, the next day, that should be at the top of your watch list for call options, right? Or for common stock, however the hell you trade, okay? So it's as simple as that. All you need is a break above the prior week's high. If I'm watching something on the short side, right, it's just the prior week's low, okay? And you need day 1 with news. So let's say, for example, tomorrow, Tesla comes out with a big headline, right? And it's moving up pre-market. And you say, you know what? It's not above last week's high. Let me set the alert. That's your confirmation. So not only does it tell you where it's going to, right? Because you're just taking the next biggest resistance on the larger time frame. But on top of that, it tells you exactly when to get in, right? Just a break of that high. Just need to close a candle above it. That's it. Okay? So this should help you with 1 to 2 day swing trades. It's not, you know, a month-long swing trade, okay? And it also should help you with day trades, prioritizing the right tickers on the right days. Okay, today it could have been really easy to just, you know, stare at Tesla all day. All right, but instead we prioritized Roku because it was on day 1 with news above last week's high. All right, you can see that explosive move. I think calls went up 200%, right? They tripled. I caught a good chunk of that move, but not the entire one. And it made for some good gains. Okay. So this again is in place of the webinar that we were going to have in the Trade with Tex chat room today. Hopefully everybody on YouTube enjoyed it. If you have not liked and subscribed to the channel, right? Like the video, sub to the channel, and make sure you click that little bell next to the subscription button that tells you and gives you a notification when we post a new video. Okay, we got a lot of good content coming. So I know it's not an easy market to trade in right now. Everything is just going up and down, left and right, but hopefully this helps. All right, so good luck swing traders, good luck day traders, and I'll talk to you in the next video. All right, take care, folks.